Hey everybody, it's Janice with Creating Through Chaos, and today we're going to start this project off with this pallet sign that I found at a thrift store. And it was already stained, but I'm going to stain it a little bit darker with my antique wax because I wanted it darker. So I'm just using my ink applicator to apply the wax, and there it is, all finished. Now I'm going to set that aside to dry. And I'm going to grab these pumpkins that I got at Dollar Tree. I'm going to pop that little pumpkin off of the big one, kind of peel off the excess off the back of that one, peel off a little bit of this, and then I'm just going to spray it with water and let it sit for a while, and then I'm going to scrape off all of that paper. So here it is once it's all scraped off and all dry from the water. And I'm going to give this a coat of antique white, and I did this on both of them. And for the future, for you, if you're going to make this, don't paint the stems. I didn't think about it while I was doing it, and I didn't want to paint the stems, so I shouldn't have done that. So I just gave these one coat, and I do this because even though I'm going to cover the pumpkin or whatever project I'm doing with scrapbook paper, I always paint it just because I know that I can't cut paper perfectly. So if I have a spot, you won't see the unfinished wood. You'll see the painted part of the wood and not the unfinished part. So once the paint was dry, I'm going to take this paper from Hobby Lobby. It's an embossed paper. And I'm just going to trace out the big pumpkin onto it. I just used a colored pencil, and then I'm just going to cut that out. And I realized today that I need new scissors because these ones are just absolutely terrible. So as you can tell, I grabbed a different pair because they just weren't cutting correctly. So now that I have that all cut out, I'm going to Mod Podge that onto the biggest pumpkin. And as you can see, I didn't cut out the stem, so I'm going to leave that. And I just sized it up to make sure that it was going to fit. I'm going to take my Mod Podge and do a pretty thick coat. This paper is a little bit difficult to adhere, so you need a lot of Mod Podge. So I'm just going to put on a nice thick coat of Mod Podge, and then I'm going to lay that on there. And press it down really well. Once I have it all smoothed out, I'm going to set that aside and I'm going to let that dry. Next, I'm going to take this napkin that I have in the napkin bundles in my shop, and I'm going to do that on the small pumpkin. So I'm just kind of trying to figure out what part of the design I want to show on the pumpkin. So I kind of figured out I want that bottom design. I wanted as many leaves as I could get on the pumpkin. So I'm just going to add a nice coat of Mod Podge, making sure that it's all even. And then I'm just going to lay my napkin down. And this is 1-ply napkin. And then just slowly smooth it out, making sure that I don't have any wrinkles. Kind of go slow. It looks fast because the video is sped up, but it's not. I'm going very slow. I'm being very gentle because I don't want to rip my napkin. Next, I'm going to take some water in a water bottle, and I just kind of sprayed down a little spot on my desk so I could dip my paintbrush in it. And then I'm just going to go around and peel off that excess just using some water instead of just ripping it, especially while the Mod Podge was wet. So go all the way around. And then I'm going to set that aside and let that dry also. So I'm just going to let both of those pieces dry for a few minutes. Now that they're all dry, I'm going to sand off all the excess. So I'm going to sand off the big pumpkin and the small pumpkin. And for this, I'm just using my micro sander. And you want to go the same direction over and over again. You never want to go back and forth. And there was like a little divot in the bottom. And that one is all finished. Next, I'm going to do the one with the napkin on it. Again, just going in one direction all the way around. I absolutely love the way this napkin looks on this pumpkin. This napkin is probably one of the most beautiful napkins, and I just love it. This is the second project I've done it with the napkin, and I just absolutely think it's so beautiful. Now that I've got them both all sanded, I'm going to clean up my mess, and then I'm going to paint this pumpkin that has the embossed paper on it. If you notice, the embossed paper was kind of shiny, and I didn't want it shiny, so I'm just going to take another coat of that antique white and go over the whole thing. Making sure that I get in all the little cracks of the embossing on the paper. And I just did one quick coat. It didn't need much more than that. So now that I have that all done, I'm going to take some orange paint and I'm going to use my ink applicator and I'm just going to kind of go over it like I would if I was using the antique wax and just kind of adding some of that orange to the top. So I'm just going to do the whole pumpkin with that orange, just using that applicator. Then I'm going to switch over to my antique wax using an applicator, and I'm going to do the stem on both of the pumpkins with that, and then I'm also going to do all around the edge of this one. I didn't do too much in the center of this one, just the edges. Just kind of getting around the edges and making sure that I got that stem and around the edges of the whole pumpkin. And these ink applicators are amazing for this. Once I had that all done, I'm going to antique wax this pumpkin too. So again, I'm going to do the stem. And I had sanded off the paint, but you can see there's still a little bit of paint. And I'm going to make sure that that orange is dry before I antique wax this whole pumpkin. So I'm just going to make sure that it's dry so I don't spread the orange and the antique wax mixed together. So I'm going to first start around the edges, and then I'm just going to lightly go across the whole center, right over that orange, and it's going to make it look like a burnt orange. And I'm kind of just tapping it in because I don't want to rub too hard because I don't want it to go all the way through to the back. So again, just kind of messing around with this antique wax, getting it darker where I want it. Then I also decided to take some of a darker orange and I put that over the top and then antique wax that again. So I just kind of kept playing with the layers until I got it to look the way that I wanted to. Kind of making some spots darker than others. I really wanted it to have a rustic look, and I think it turned out so amazing. And that is how the pumpkin's going to go when we're getting ready. So as you can see, I'm just adding some of that darker orange, making sure that that's dry, and then going over it again with the darker wax again. And I just love the look that this gave this. It was really rustic, but it also, I was trying to get it to match the darkness of the napkin and how that looked once I antiqued it. Next, I'm going to paint these little pieces that I got from Dollar Tree, is where I got the 2 leaves, and then I got the Happy Fall from Hobby Lobby. So the first thing I'm going to do is paint this leaf with a dark burgundy color. The next one I'm going to paint with a King's Gold bring back color. My palette. It was my like 2 little pumpkins, and I'm going to add some glue to that and pumpkin. And then I'm going to paint this Happy Fall, the little one, and glue it to the front of the big other leaf. I'm just doing these all real quick. And then once I had those glued together, I'm going to glue them on to pounce off the excess, and then just kind of ran it over. And how cute do these look together? Like, I absolutely love how the colors all came out on those. Just playing around with the layers on the colors, and that napkin just came out. And then we'll set those aside and let them dry. So there they are attached. Next, I took a small square of burlap and I added that to the top right corner. And for some reason, I was a little bit out of focus here, but I end up pulling it down so you guys can see it. And then a piece of muslin over the top of that. So I just kind of added some glue to that. I'm going to lay that right on top of that. And this is just stained muslin. Then once I had that on, I'm going to add that Happy Fall, just using some hot glue right on top of that. And how cute is this? I love how all the colors are coming together, and I just think these just are so beautiful colors for fall. So I'm going to add that little leaf to the small pumpkin, and I kind of tried to figure out the placement of it. I didn't really want to cover the design. Then I added that other leaf to the big pumpkin. I'm just going to add a little hot glue to the back of some raffia bows, and then I'm going to add one to each of the pumpkins. And then trim off the excess on the bows. Oh, my glue wasn't fully dry there. And then I'm going to add the little bow to the bottom pumpkin. And how stinking cute is this? I absolutely love the way this turned out. I hope you enjoyed this video. Thank you guys for watching. And as always, don't forget to spread the chaos.